Test headquarters and the OnlineTestConf headquarters. Kristel, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Guys, one of the coolest things about online conferences, and again, I really love this one, is the fact that we are coming to you from everywhere, and literally everywhere. Just chatting with a friend of mine who I met at Star East about 4 years ago, and she thought that I was somewhere in the East Coast. No, guys, we're from Israel, but we're coming live, and Kristel is coming from Estonia. Are you still there?
Yep, I'm coming from Estonia.
And we have people all over the world, and this is what makes this so freaking incredible. And we're really, really happy to make it. So, by the way, guys, Kristel just told me that she has a very bad cold, so forgive her, please, if she sounded with a cold, but I'm sure that she will do a great job. In any case, let me go ahead and introduce her. Kristel Kruustük, and I really tried that very, very hard.
Kruustük, yes.
Kruustük, sorry, I tried it. She's the founder and co-founder and CEO of Testlio. She has been in testing since 2009, and Tesla is right now a crowdsourced testing company. And we were talking, I really like the way how she framed her talk and how to make sure that, again, your QA level in your organization, the perception of it and the way that you're looking for it is actually grown, and how you can actually make that job. And I think that we're sometimes, even if we're great at testing, we're really, really bad at selling our testing. And it's something that we need to know. Again, no way around it. So Kristel, go for it. The floor is yours, and you can start sharing your screen.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to share my screen. This will, okay, continue. All right. So that's the right one. All right, do you see my screen? Oops. Does everybody see my, well, Joel, maybe you can tell me if you can see my screen.
We see a blue screen with some weird icon on it. So I guess that's it.
You see the
yes,
how to elevate QA in your organization. That's the one.
That's correct. Okay, we see it.
Yes,
thank you.
Guys,
just a reminder, if you have questions for Kristel, go ahead and use the Q&A or her Slack channel, and we'll take about 5 minutes towards the end for that.
Yep, I'm hopefully gonna start stop a little earlier as well, so everybody has an opportunity to ask questions as well. But seriously, I really want to thank you for the opportunity to present here at this online testing conference, and I think it's great way for us to, as a community, to keep growing, and so we gotta make more of these happen, to be honest. So thank you so much for your warm welcome, and yeah, as you already mentioned, today I just want to talk about elevating QA in your organization. And I've been in this industry since 2009, and over the 9 years of my experience, I've seen so many different companies trying to build their QA organizations from scratch. And yeah, therefore I just want to share you a couple of stories. But first off, I would love to introduce myself. So by heart or by profession, I'm actually a software tester. So before I founded my own company, Testlio, I was eager to build my career in as a software tester. But the future had different plans for me, and so in 2012, I became a bit frustrated about the ways how crowdsourced testing was being done, and how it didn't really recognize the testers in a way that I had seen this entire industry. And so therefore I really started seeing a lot of these issues in the crowdsourced testing space, where testers were really competitive. Their time was valued by the number of issues that they were reporting, and therefore I decided to just tackle these problems. And when I saw that nobody else was solving these issues the way I saw them should be solved, I decided to start my own company called Testlio. And one-liner pitch would be to say that we are just like a global community of software testers that help companies provide amazing customer experiences. And I think customer experience is one of the key words that you hear nowadays when we talk about testing and when we talk about the quality overall for any company that wants to release their product. And a little bit more about the company itself. Today we are like a team of 65 people internally that like actually help us, who build the platform to help us scale the services that we provide, and our community that we're actively working with is about the size of 400 to 500 testers. And today we have raised like about 7.5 million in funding, so we can inject more into our growth. And just recently, which is very exciting for me, was that I was selected as Young Entrepreneur of the Year and also Innovator of the Year in Estonia. So I was super happy about that, and I'm really doing my best to elevate QA in everybody's minds, to be honest, and talk about the importance of testing and why it should not be an afterthought. So yeah, and just a little bit more about myself. So I have hobbies as well. So I do horseback riding. So I have a horse, and I also play piano. So as an entrepreneur and as a software tester who's trying to change the world, it's also important to remember that we have to take time for ourselves as well. And so this is my way of doing so. And then lastly, feel free to follow me on Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn or Medium. In Medium, I mostly blog about like entrepreneurship and its challenges, but hopefully I can turn this topic that I'm covering today into a blog post as well, because I've recently learned that once you present something, then writing it down afterwards helps you conclude all these all your messages as well, and maybe get the point out to everybody more clear as well. So that's it from me, and thank you so much for this opportunity to present here today for you. And I see that there are a lot of people online as well. I think I've never presented to so many people, so hopefully I keep you engaged, and I can keep my fever together until the end of this presentation. So let's get into it. So what will I talk about today? So as my topic already said, I want to talk about elevating QA in an organization. And first off, I would love to start off by just telling you a story of my personal growth as a tester over the past 9 years, and like what are some of the common misconceptions that I've seen happening in the industry, and like why testing is often perceived as an afterthought in so many organizations. So I want to really share some of my personal learnings going from a college student into leading a company, Testlio. And lastly, I would love to take you on a ride with a company called Lyft. So as you saw in the online test conference website as well, then the fact like how they built up their QA organization, and how QA really helps them elevate this entire customer experience is really truly admirable. And so I would love to share you some of the insights into how QA is built into their organization, and how come they've been able to build a multi-billion-dollar company within just short 5 years. All right, I think I'm ready to go. So first off, I would love to talk to you a little bit about how I actually got into the tech industry and how I ended up being a tester myself. So back in 2008, I was just graduating high school, and I really didn't know what I want to do with my life. And then back then, my sister, who's 6 years older than me, lived in London. And she invited me to come over for the summer and really figure out like, what do I want to do with my life? as a young high school student, I was very eager to accept her offer, and so I did. And I found a job as a waitress, and then at the same time, I started hanging out a lot with my sister's friends, and a lot of them were working in the technology industry. So, and they were all telling me that, hey, Kristel, like if you don't know what you want to do with your life, then just enter the tech industry, and you will have an unlimited number of opportunities how to build your career. And so that spiked my interest immediately into tech, even though so far all of my experience with computers had been like installing Doom and seriously like Heroes of Might and Magic on my computer, and I only had experience with building like presentations in PowerPoint and Word, but that was pretty much it. But still, all of my sister's friends were so eagerly talking about the entire industry and its opportunities, and to me it seemed like they were all very happy, they were very successful, and therefore I made the decision to enter the tech industry as well. And obviously, as we all know as testers, there is no such thing as software testing that can be learned in college. So that was the same thing here in Estonia. But I found a school in Estonia, like a local college here in Estonia called Estonian Information Technology College. And they were accepting applications, and therefore I decided to apply there. And I really applied to become a developer. And luckily, I got in, even though at this point my grades in math were not that good. But luckily, the exam that I did here in Estonia gave me enough points to get like a free spot to study in this school. And so that's where really my journey started. And compared to a lot of my classmates, I was truly one of the only ones that didn't have too much experience in the technology industry. Like everybody that I became friends with later on, they were all like building products or websites since the age of 12. And to me, that sounded like really crazy, but I had a lot to learn from them. And then the first year in college was obviously very heavy on like math and physics, and then we got some basic training in Java and HTML and CSS, but that was like pretty much the first year. And then year 2 came by. That was in 2009, and I really started looking for a job because I was running personally low on my financial resources, and therefore I decided to really enter the tech industry. And so that's where I started talking a lot with a lot of my college buddies, and they were all telling me like, "Hey, Kristel, like if you wanna like become a great developer, then testing is something that is like really easy to do, and anyone can do testing these days. So if you want to become a great developer, then just go and do testing at some company." And to me, that was like one of the first like misconceptions that I met in the industry, that like I think a lot of people get the understanding that testing can be done by anyone, which is true to some point. But if you want to become great at something, then it really takes time and effort and really your mind and passion to become great at it. It's like with entrepreneurship, right? Like anyone can be an entrepreneur, but if you want to be very successful, then it takes time, it takes tears and pain to really become a great one and change the world. But anyways, so my classmates or college buddies were telling me that like just anyone can do testing, and so it should be fairly easy to find a job as a tester. So in 2009, I went to work for a small software development house here in Estonia. And they were a very agile 6-person development team. And they were building websites for some of the biggest brands here in Estonia. And they were looking for a tester on a project basis, and to me that sounded like a cool opportunity, and why not take it? And so I had my first day at the office, and the only objective or the only goal that I was given was to find issues, and that was it. Without any experience, I basically just went in, and I believed that like I can be valuable team member if I log as many issues as possible. So here's like another Giphy, I can do it. The goal was to log as many issues as possible for me. And as I didn't have anyone to learn from, and at this point we seriously didn't have even any training at college about testing, I just started learning about testing myself. And like one of the first things that I learned was that as a tester, I need to like write test cases, I need to have an expected outcome and then execute them as we have a release coming. And so I built like thousands of test cases into a spreadsheet and started executing them. And then at the same time, I was trying to find as many issues as possible. So I was really seriously, when I think back, I was like a robot that was following orders. And in my opinion, at this point, the only way to elevate like QA in this organization was to find as many issues as possible. And that was seriously like elevating QA for me. But unfortunately, obviously, as we all know, that should never be the goal, because testing is so much more than just finding issues. And I also remember like one of the challenges that I was facing as a newbie tester in this team was that whenever there was like an issue in the production and I didn't catch it, then I was often the one that was like, I was the one who was pointed fingers at, and I was being asked like, hey, why didn't you catch this issue? And it was always almost like my fault. And so the team was very, we were not like on the same page with like the goals, and then therefore it was just like it was definitely a very good first experience for me to see how different companies are being built. And then from there on, as this company, the first company that I was working for, was hiring me on a project basis, I moved on to a bigger company here in Estonia that was like about 200 people, and they were like a very successful software development house here in Estonia, and they hired me as a tester, and that's the first time where I really found out that QA is like an integral part of the organization, and quality is really everybody's responsibility. If there are like any issues happening in production, then we need to understand like, why was it happening? Is there anything that we can prevent, or is there any, like, how are we going to prevent that in the future? And so I learned as a tester that that testing really has to be a process that is full of exploration and investigation. And so by that time, I also learned that testing is very exciting career opportunity, and it's not just an easy thing to do like everybody thinks it is. It's really a process that can be built based on the context of the company and their goals. And so as I was joining the company, I was like moving around different teams, and I really saw that every development team that was in this organization had dedicated QA. And to me, that seemed so awesome, that QA can be an integral part, and should be an integral part of any organization. And we really had, like, I think I really loved what Michael previously said in his presentation as well. He was talking about the no barriers mindset in the organization where like everybody has the same goal, and most of the time the goal is to make your customers happy, right? And so there are no barriers. Like your customer I can reach out to them as a tester to my customer and figure out like what are some of the most common use cases, what are the usage statistics, so I can use this information to better execute my testing process, right? And by that time, I also got some training at school in college, and I started learning that testing is very and we can wear so many different hats as testers. And so I also started using different tools like mind maps, test management tools. Unfortunately, at that time, we didn't have, I didn't know about Practi Test, but I wish I had. And yeah, we started using different tools as well. And we obviously used these tools for our advantage and tried to make the best use of them. But like one of the biggest things that I learned from this being part of this organization was that testing is really like analyzing different user flows, gathering statistics, and really prioritizing. It wasn't about finding as many issues as possible, because by that time I realized that everyone can find these issues, but it's a matter of prioritization and understanding the users and making our best decisions on like what should we release and what are we okay with if we release. Because every company out there, especially nowadays, has tons of issues, and it's just a matter of prioritization and keeping them happy. And obviously today we talk a lot about the speed as well. All right, then from there on, just to gather, like my last point in this company as well was that I really learned that in order to elevate QA in this organization, like we have to learn together and gather as much information as possible for our advantage and turn that into a good knowledge. And then from there on, I graduated I graduated college, and I decided to move to London with my husband, Marco. And by that time, I knew that I really want to build my career in testing. And so I'm going to do everything I can to be the best at it. And obviously, I continued my career as a tester. So I found a company that was developing different financial trading platforms to banks. And it seemed like a very crazy opportunity and something that I had never dealt with, especially when we talk about financial industries. But they were eager to have me on board and really build up their testing department. And so I basically decided to accept their offer. And so that's where I really started questioning a lot of my efforts as a tester as well. Like whenever someone gave me orders to do something, I was always questioning them about is it really the best and is it really the most efficient way to do things. But anyways, in London, I really realized, as I already mentioned as well, that I just want to become the best tester in the world. So besides my full-time job, I started looking for just additional opportunities to improve my skills as a tester. And so one of the things, what I did was that I found out about different crowdsourced testing sites, for example. And then secondly, I started going to a lot of conferences and meetups, and I met up with a lot of testers in this industry, and they were all telling me stories on how they built up their careers as a testers. And by that time, I really realized that QA is and has to be an integral part of any company that's out there, because through QA, we can build better products and make our customers happier. And then when I was working at the company in London, I was like, as I already mentioned, I started questioning a lot of my personal efforts as well. And I started asking a lot of questions. Like, one of the things that I learned in London was that I should never be afraid to ask any questions, because the more information I have as a tester, the better input I can give to my team to provide better customer experience to our customers, right? And if we don't know what we don't know, then it's definitely a potential risk for us, and we should eliminate any risk that's out there. So testing is really truly a process that we need to where we need to investigate and explore about the product. And as I was living in London, I also started looking more into the testing industry, and I found out about some really great thought leaders. And I stumbled upon to a blog post that was written by Michael Bolton, and it was about checking versus testing. And by this time, I really realized that when I first entered the software testing industry in this small company, then at this time I was just doing checking. I wasn't really challenging the product. I wasn't challenging the team and I wasn't challenging the customer either, and understanding like what can we do best to make them happy. And so Michael Bolton said it really nicely. I'm going to read it as well. That testing is something that we do with the motivation of finding new information. And testing is a process of exploration, discovery, investigation, and learning. And I truly love the last sentence, that like testing is a process of exploration and discovery. And I think one of the great things that happened to me at this point was that I became very vocal in my company as a tester on questioning everything that I was told to do, because I just felt that this is the right thing for me to do. And so even besides the fact that first when I joined the company, they asked me to like build up test plans and start executing them, I was also questioning about like, hey, what are the parts of the product that we can also automate? And so I implemented some automation. I started like building mind maps. I think Janet gave a really good speech about or presentation about mind maps. So I started like building mind maps, and I was just like really actively questioning. And so now when I look back into the 3 years of experience that I had starting off of this small company in Estonia, I became part of like a very, very healthy organization where QA was very like at the same level with anyone in this organization. And then everything like changed. So it was like, as I already mentioned, I started building my own company during 2000 and like in the end of 2012. And based on all of this experience, I just really entered like the world of entrepreneurship, and I quickly started learning that QA is an afterthought for a lot of companies. And I think it's obviously coming from the fact that basic level of testing, like user testing or basic level of testing, can be done by anyone. And I think that's truly like really okay as well. But at some point, that type of mindset can be really destructive as you grow as a company. And so when I was I started talking with a lot of different startups, like especially very small startups that had teams of like 5 to 10 people, they never thought about like investing into quality. And I think therefore QA has that type of has had that type of mentality for a very long time, that hey, it's an afterthought, and I think everybody starts thinking about it once how can I say it nicely now, but the best way to say it is that it's really when things go bad, then this is where companies start thinking about QA. And so I started thinking like, how can we like shift gears and help these companies still provide amazing customer experience, even if they don't have the money to invest into QA. And and as I said, like the fact that QA is an afterthought for so many companies today, in today's world, it can be really destructive for any company, because I think some of you have already covered or talked about the topics, such as like some of the challenges that we're facing in the mobile industry. When we see the Android market, where it has an explosive number of devices coming to the market every year, it's just a massive headache to any company that wants to make their customers happy, right? And so I think when we consider when I think about the fact that QA is an afterthought, especially, then it's really, I think it comes from the fact as well that when we talk about times with web, then releasing on web became very quick, and so QA really didn't get to provide that much value anymore, because we had to release quickly, and whenever on web something went broken, like you could like you could implement changes within just like seconds, right? But when we consider today's world with mobile, like we can't do it anymore. So we're like, I think the entire testing industry is evolving, and this is something that like some of the previous presenters have covered as well. And as I already mentioned as well, that companies, I think, really understand the value of testing when a lot of issues start appearing and customers get frustrated. And I think that also kicks into the mindset that like testers can find issues, but like nobody else thinks about the next level of testing, where testers are actually the information providers, and they use different data for their advantage to uncover different risks for the company. And when I think about like, I think the numbers in this testing industry are talking for themselves as well by now. For example, there is a very cool report that I recommend everyone to read. It's called World Quality Report, and it's built by Gemini. And they just recently released a new updated version for this year and next year. And companies are now, well, they were spending 12% of their budgets into testing in 2012. And by 2020, it's going to be like 32%. So companies are really now getting the value of testing, and they know that they can't skip this integral part of any organization. And so when we, for example, go and talk to potential customers today, then this is one of the key aspects as well, that like it's just something that you can't skip anymore, because we're facing so many challenges in this in the industry, with like the growing number of devices, different networks, different sensors that we have on the phone, whatever it is, right? So different challenges. And before I take you on a journey with the Lyft and tell you like how they've built up their organization, especially QA organization, and how QA helps them like elevate their entire QA or customer experience, then I also wanted to go through like some of the misconceptions that I constantly hear about testing, and I think that really kicks into like the entire industry, that where like people don't think about software testing as a profession when they go to college, right? And I think it's coming a lot from the fact that everybody are injecting a thought process or a mindset into the industry, where I hear things constantly saying that manual testing is dead, and testers don't have the technical skills, and it's so easy to do and anyone can do it. And I think that creates a lot of like fear, and it's injecting like fear into the newbie testers that are very eager to learn. And I just recently, actually, when we talk about like manual testing testing will be replaced by automation, then I just recently went to a conference in Potsdam called Agile Testing Days. And Angie Jones, who is a very awesome tester from Twitter, gave a very cool keynote about how we should use automation for our advantage. And I think the point that she brought on board was that like we can always, like, automation is like a tool for us, right? And we will never be replaced, and therefore manual testing will never be replaced, but we have to do a lot of communication, and we have to be very vocal as a testing community to keep elevating the importance of QA. And as I previously mentioned as well, I want to repeat myself going through some of the key points as well, is that I think some of the key points or the misconceptions are coming definitely from the web times as well, where the software delivery process became so easy and so seamless, but nobody really have transferred their mindsets into the fact that, like, we're in a totally different industry, and testing is becoming more and more complex, because mobile is one part, but the second thing is, like, we have all these different connected devices, that we have self-driving cars. Like, it's crazy that software is running our world, and we're still fighting with the fact that people don't understand the importance of QA. So we still have a lot of work to do, but it considers a lot of communication, and us as the testers, the only way that we can elevate QA is through communication and just learning from each other, and then making sure that our message gets out there. And then also I made some notes on, sorry, I'm just reading my notes from my notebook, but there was a really cool article that someone just shared yesterday in the OnlineTestConf Slack chat as well. And it was written by the CTO of 37 Signals, how testing and exploratory testing creates a lot of value as well. And like that type of mindset coming from such a well-known person is truly admirable, and I really recommend you to read it. Like, he also stated that too many programmers have diluted themselves into thinking that they could ship high-quality software with automated testing alone, but it's just a mirage, and it doesn't actually happen that easily. It's like exploratory testing can never be replaced, and as I said, software testing is still a process of finding new information, and really quality is everybody's responsibility, right? I hope I still have time. Wow, I've talked so much. I hope you're still enjoying it as much as I do. But then, I had like a couple of Giphies as well, but this was a Giphy that I wanted to add about the misconceptions as well, that it's just sometimes ridiculous when I hear about these misconceptions and people like very passionately talking about that testing is going to be dead, and like, what are you going to do in 5 years as a tester? But I think we should never be scared, because there's always a lot for us to do as testers. And therefore, I would love to like finish off my presentation with the story of Lyft. So Lyft is a very successful ride-sharing company out of the United States. To date, they've raised, I think, billions of dollars, and they are one of the most successful ride-sharing companies outside of the US. Hopefully, like in the future, they're like at this moment, they're very local, like in the US, but they're expanding in the future as well. And as we all know, ride-sharing space is very crowded industry, right? Like they have Ubers and different competitors here in Europe. And so as a company, they're like facing so many challenges from scratch. One thing is competitiveness. Then the other fact is, like, as a mobile company, they really like their key thing or their key thing that they need to deliver to their customers is that that their drivers need to be able to find riders, and the riders need to be able to match with the drivers. And we have to consider the fact that they're also facing some of the challenges, such as like different devices, different operating systems on these devices. So it's really, really hard these days to make customers happy and keep them happy, because in this mobile industry, compared to like web, is that you can't push fixes into production anymore within seconds, because Apple has a process that you have to follow, and sometimes your release might take 24 hours. So testing in an organization in production isn't like a way anymore. So everybody has to think about testing from the beginning and implement that process into the organization immediately. And I think what's really cool about Lyft is that they've understood the fact that customer experience is really the king and queen of their product. And so over the time, they've learned that QA process is something that that really goes into like this entire organization. They have people that write automation. They have people that follow, understand different processes in the organization, how to be more effective. And they also, for example, they look into their, they look into a lot into their end user feedback as well. And they're engaging their beta communities to get their feedback as soon as possible, and as soon as something happens, then they fix it, and that's what really matters to a lot of customers these days as well, because we are in the industry where we have to either choose between speed and quality, but like how can we do both, right? And so I think what Lyft has really done really well is that QA is a process where they just not like do checking, and they have automation in place, and they have like different test plans that they execute manually in place, but they really look into their customer data. They constantly analyze usage statistics. They use different tools in order to make their customers happier. And it's really admirable on seeing like how QA has like elevated the entire customer experience throughout the organization. And I think that's where us as the testing community has to do a lot of work on, in terms of like communicating these success stories into a lot of organizations, and then letting them know that like we can't skip QA anymore, right? And yeah, I think Lyft is one great hell of an example. And then I would love to finish off my presentation, as I know I'm running out of time, on like what can we do to be successful and valuable QA. And I think we all know that we want to be valuable, but we also need to remember that, and in order to elevate ourselves, we always have to keep in mind that we have to elevate like the entire team, and quality is everybody's responsibility. So as testers, I think in order to elevate QA, it's important to keep asking questions from your team, so you can always and be open-minded about like everything that you do and you learn. Be analytical, like try to get as much information about the product that you're testing as well. And then one of my favorite things is that always be learn it all, not know it all. And it's actually said by the CEO of Microsoft. And I really love the fact that like you're never gonna be perfect, or you're never gonna be like knowing about everything. And it's constantly important to keep learning and keep listening and learn from smarter people around you. And I think that's how we can keep the industry moving, and also elevating QA in this industry, because I think I'm still seeing some organizations that are still stuck in the mindset of QA has to be valued by the number of issues that they report, or QA is just there to do some basic checking, but it's not. And so we need to do a lot of communication ourselves. And then, yeah, I would love to finish off with some just key takeaways that if we really want to keep everything going as it is, then we just got to keep educating ourselves and those around us. So that means always be learning. Then we always got to question everything, but at the same time also trust your team. Like you can't be very aggressive in terms of like questioning everything, but also trust the people that are in your team and have seen different things happening, and understand the fact that everything that you don't know hides a potential risk. And then, I guess we all want to be valuable and elevate ourselves, but we have to remember that quality is team's effort, and therefore, if we have a better cooperation, the better outcome we always have. And I think Lyft is a great example on how they've done that together as a team, where everybody's responsibility is quality, and there are no barriers. It's just teamwork, team effort, and it's constant improvement process. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation. And if you have any feedback or anything, then feel free to email me. And that's it. That's all.
Kristel, thank you very much. I know that you have a very
stop talking.
It happens to us all, and it just meant that you had quite a lot of saying. And again, I really like it. I think that the point that I liked the most was the part about to be a learner and not a know-it-all. I had not heard about it, but I could not agree more about that message. And I really like the way that people are able to understand your path. And I think that many of us think that our paths into testing, into the places where we are today, are not that important, but they are. They really are, because we are a reflection of all the problems that we had to solve and all the things that we had to learn, and it was actually really great. There has been quite some chat also on the Slack channels again, and again, we're very happy for that. And you can go ahead just and take a look into that. We don't have quite a lot of time. We need to cut into the break, but Kristel, it was a great session. Thank you very much for your points in here. I hope you feel better.
I already feel a bit better, but I still have like cold sweat on my arm. So.
Oh, go get a glass of whiskey and everything will be better in a couple of minutes.
Thanks for the tips.
In any case, guys, thank you very much. Kristel, thank you very much for this. I want to remind everyone that we have 15 minutes now, and then we'll go to Rob Lambert for the closing keynote of today. But after that, the dessert of the sessions is going to be our lightning talk. So please don't go away. Remember, we still have about an hour and a half to go. Thank you very much, and we'll be right back.